in the role of Carmen. Swami Vivekananda visited Camp Percy in New Hampshire. He then went to Thousand Island Park to train a group of students. Miss Josephine MacLeod met Vivekananda in January 1895 and became an ardent admirer. In the later part of her life, she narrated her recollections of Swamiji.
Together. Remember who you are. Never forget who you are. He doesn't. They do not give the same talk to everybody. It depends on your evolution. If you're ready, when you are ready, the teacher comes. It's your readiness that calls them. So when Swamiji came to America, and we went to hear him on the 29th of January, 1895, having read the Gita, Betty and I seemed to be ready, because from that hour, life had another purpose, because it gave that strength which is within one, not what is without. Then when Mr. Leggett met him, he said, "That's the greatest man I ever saw." And somebody said to him, "Why do you say that, Mr. Leggett?" He said, "Because he's more common sense." So religion is not a queer thing. It's the development of the highest side in one's life. And Swamiji was such fun. He was such joy in it. He knew he was divine, and because he was that, he could pass it on. You can only, if you have money, you can give money. If you have spirituality, you can give that. You can only give what you yourself have earned. So the children have got to carry on. Swamiji used to say, give your heart to the Lord when you're young. Then you'll carry many over. And he said, never forget who you are, incidentally American and a woman, but always the child of God. That's your birthright. Incidentally, you're an American or a woman. And so tell yourself that incessantly till you get the courage that comes, that knows that there is this power within you as well as without. Thou art the supreme goal of all knowledge. Thou art the eternal supreme support of the universe. Thou art changeless, protector of the unchanging law of righteousness. Thou art the eternal spirit. This is my faith. Bhagavad Gita, 11th chapter. Never try to change a person. Take them where they are and give them a push onward. They must develop according to their nature. It's for you to never upset anyone else.
In 1896, Vivekananda went to London and gave many lectures on Vedanta. Then, in January 1897, he returned to India and founded the Ramakrishna Math and mission at Balram Basu's house in Calcutta. A piece of land was bought at Belur, across the river from Calcutta. Here, Vivekananda established the headquarters of the Ramakrishna order. In this shrine, he installed the relics of the Master. He said to a disciple, "The Master once told me, I will go and live wheresoever it will be your pleasure to take me, carrying me on your shoulders, be it under a tree or in the humblest cottage. With faith in that gracious promise, I myself am now carrying him to the site of the future Math. Know for certain, my boy, that so long as his name inspires his followers with his ideals of purity, holiness, and loving spirit of charity to all men, even so long shall he, the Master, sanctify the place with his hallowed presence." Swami Vivekananda received a tremendous reception all over India for his service to the motherland. He said, "I have a message for the world which I will deliver without fear and without care for the future." He addressed his countrymen, "Awake, arise, and stop not till the goal is reached." Strength, strength is what the Upanishads speak to me from every page. Be not weak. Will sin cure sin? Weakness cure weakness? Stand up and be strong. The first step in getting strength is to uphold the Upanishads and believe, I am the soul. Me the sword cannot cut, nor weapons pierce. Me the fire cannot burn. Me the air cannot dry. I am the omnipotent. I am the omniscient. So repeat these blessed, saving words. Do not say we are weak. We can do anything and everything. We all have the same glorious soul. Let us believe in it. These concepts of Vedanta must come out, must not remain only in the forest, not only in the cave, but they must come out to work at the bar and the bench, in the pulpit and in the cottage of the poor man. Carry the light and the life of Vedanta to every door, and rouse up the divinity that is hidden within every soul. Though he wanted to take rest in the solitude of his room at Belur Math, people flocked to him for guidance and inspiration. Swamiji worked constantly for the regeneration of India. As a result, his health failed. His brother disciples and American friends advised him to go back to America to recuperate. So, on June 19, 1899, he left India for the United States with Swami Turiyananda and Sister Nivedita. On the boat, he said to Nivedita, "The older I grow, the more everything seems to me to lie in manliness. This is my new gospel." In the summer of 1899, Swami Vivekananda returned to New York via London. He went to Ridgely Manor, Stone Ridge, as a guest of Mr. Francis Leggett. Miss Catherine Whitmarsh, the grandniece of Mr. Leggett, recalls Swamiji's stay at Ridgely.
Asked my mother about my knowing Swamiji. I wanted her to tell me over again what she remembered, because of course I was just under 2 years of age at the time, and I couldn't possibly really remember. So she told me again that we had been at Ridgely, and that Swamiji took a walk every day, and he stopped by our house on the way, and he enjoyed watching us play, my brother and myself. My brother was 3, and I was 1 year and 10 months. And we used to run races, and he gave a penny to the winner, and he seemed to thoroughly enjoy it. The walk that Swamiji took every day is rather interesting to me, because there is only really one walk at Ridgely, and you take it one way back or the other. But if he left the little cottage and took the road by the casino and went straight on through the fields to a big old oak tree that has since died, it was the highest point on the walk and overlooked the fields on all sides. I was there. There was a seat nailed around this great tree, and I often sat there as I had a special love for it. Years later, I was told Swamiji used to meditate under this tree. So then he walked down the hill to the inn and enjoyed watching us playing for a short time, and then to Ridgely and the cottage. Mother used to describe the dinner parties, and she always said that Swamiji was the most delightful dinner companion she ever had. Imagine. Anyway, he was great fun. When I went to see Swami Vivekananda, I saw him the last time. I don't remember when it was. It's not of any great consequence. But he told me about my father. And he told me that when Swamiji went to say goodbye to Uncle Frank, and he was going to India for the last time, my father was there. And he said, Father said to him, "Well, we hope to see you before long." And he said, "No, I'm not coming back." And Father said, "Oh, aren't you coming back?" And he said, "No, I'm going to India to die." And Father didn't really take him seriously, because Swamiji often joked. And he said, well, I don't know, he made some polite remarks about it, but Swami insisted that he was going to die. And Father said, "Well, if you're going to die, you should leave a will." And he said, "I have nothing to will." And Father said, "Yes, you've got your books that have been made." Miss Waldo and Miss Waldo was getting them together, and they mentioned my father's name with Miss Waldo, getting the books together. And so he said, "Well, if you get the will, if you make up the will, I'll sign it." So then Father got busy, and I don't know the details of how he arranged it, but that's how they set up the trust fund. And then many years later, when the trust fund ran out and everybody had died on the trust fund, Tontine bought it and gave it to Swami Nityananda. So all that publishing was done through my father. I'm very proud of that.
Previously, he lectured mainly in the Midwest and on the East Coast. In 1899, he went to the West Coast to speak on Vedanta. He lived in this house in Pasadena for 6 weeks and lectured in Los Angeles. He used to join in picnic parties with his American devotees. Sometimes Swamiji would go on sightseeing trips. The American people loved him dearly. In San Francisco, he said to a woman disciple, "You know, I may have to be born again. You see, I have fallen in love with mankind." On his way to New York, he stopped at Chicago and stayed with the Hale family. He told the Hale sisters, "I am ever grateful to you 4 sisters. To you I owe everything in this country." Miss MacLeod, Mrs. Ole Bull, Sister Nivedita, and Sister Christine helped Swamiji with his work in the West. Mrs. Lillian Montgomery met Swami Vivekananda in New York in 1900. Many years later, she narrated her reminiscences of Vivekananda.
Well, I'll say this, that Swami Vivekananda was so entirely different from anything that we had known in America. That I had heard all my life, it seemed to me, of power in repose. And the first time I had seen it was in the presence of Swami Vivekananda. And it all came as such a surprise because I wasn't prepared for it, really. I had just a short time before that, I was really searching for something, and someone said that they had heard of a Swami, and I didn't even know what a Swami was, you see. And that was Swami Abhidananda. And I heard him several times, and I was very impressed because he was so different from us, you see. He was very calm and poised and all that sort of thing. And I was surprised that he knew so much about our literature and about our sciences and things. And then I think I only heard him about twice. And someone said another Swami is coming. And Swami Abhidananda had been speaking in a hall, and they told me that this new Swami would speak in the Vedanta house. And so I wasn't at all prepared, you see, for Swami's personality. But at that time, I wanted to hear everybody and see everybody and all that sort of thing. And so I went to the Vedanta house, and I sat on the front seat so that I wouldn't miss anything. And Swami entered by a side door. And immediately I knew that there was something extraordinary about him. He was very unassuming, very, very calm, and entered and took his place on the rostrum. But there was something about that presence that you couldn't take your eyes off of him, and he fascinated you. And as he sat in the chair, his head was the most perfect that I'd ever seen. And it was perfectly poised, and power seemed to emanate from it. I was fascinated. And he looked like a living Buddha. He looked entirely different from any personality that I'd ever seen. And then he rose to speak, and the voice was extraordinary. It was mellow, resonant, but of great purity. And as he spoke, veils just seemed to fall from your eyes, because he gave you an entirely different impression of personality. He gave you an entirely different impression as he was speaking of the relationship of the individual to the divinity. And I remember as I looked at him, it seemed to me that there was an ocean of consciousness back of him. And in some way, there was no limit to this personality. His awareness was in the vision within. And as we see people, we see them limited because their awareness is entirely connected with the body. With Swami Vivekananda, it seemed